And welcome students to our next lesson on programming with arrays. Let's discuss methods with a variable number of parameters. So getting started here, recall our technique which was known as overloading. So suppose you have a method named max that returns the largest of two int values and have another method named max that takes three int arguments and returns the largest of three. Remember that right there is an example of overloading. You have two methods that have the same thing, same name, but they have different parameters. So if you decide you need a method that returns the largest of four int values, you define a version of the method max that takes four arguments. However, the thing that with this approach, there's no way possible to cover all cases of computing the maximum of some number of int values. Covering all cases in this would require pretty much an infinite number of definitions for the method named max, and no programmer has the time, or probably in the right mind, the energy to write an infinite number of definitions. Like you'd have to do 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and then just keep going. It just wouldn't be feasible. There's a better way to do it. So what we would like to do is a single method definition for a method named max that can then take any number of int arguments. So the nice thing about Java is it allows us to define methods that take any number of arguments. So for example, the following is the definition of a method named max that takes any number of int arguments and returns the largest of its arguments. Public static int max int ... arg parentheses if arg dot length equals 0. This is now not print line, fatal error plus maximum of 0 values. System dot exit int largest is equal to arg 0 for int I equals 1, I is less than arg dot length, I plus plus. If arg of I is greater than largest is set to arg of I, return largest. This method max works pretty much by taking its int arguments and then placing them in an array named arg, whose base type is int. For example, suppose this definition of the method max is in a class named utility class, and consider the following method call. Int highest score is equal to utility class.max 3251. The array arg is automatically declared and initialized as follows. Int arg is equal to 3251. So argument of 0 is equal to 3, argument of 1 is equal to 2, arg2 is equal to 5, and arg3 is equal to 1. After this, the code of the body of the definition is executed. Utility class uses this method max. Now note that a method such as max takes any number of arguments is basically a method that takes an array as an argument, except that the job of placing values to the array is done automatically for the programmer. The values for the array are given as arguments, and Java automatically creates an array. So let's go over to here. And here is utility class with our variable parameter demo. And in here we're entering scores for Tom, Richard, and Harriet. And it's going to use scanner keyword int Tom score is equal to keyword next int, Rich score is keyword next int, and Harriet score is keyword dot next int. So then we have int highest score is equal to utility class dot max. All right, so here's the dot max. So we look over here. Here's max, and you can see it says int ... arg. If arg dot length is equal to 0, print out fatal error, maximum number of 0 values. Otherwise, it does this very basic sorting algorithm right here. All right, so it's going to check the length of the array. If the index at that current argument is greater than largest, then we're going to say largest is equal to arg of I. And it's going to keep going until it goes to the whole array, at which it will then return largest. Then once largest is returned, you will see that it will then use that to calculate this right here between the three scores. So that's a pretty basic program, but it's how it works. So let's talk about var arg specifications. Now a parameter specification that specifies any number of arguments, such as int ... arg, is what's known as a var arg specification. Now, while it would make more sense to call it a var parameter specification, the issue is that the word var arg has been too well entrenched in programming conventions that we're just going to kind of go along with the common usage of it. Now the three dots in a var specification is what's called an ellipse or ellipsis. Now note that the ellipsis is part of the Java syntax and is not an abbreviation. So this is not int dot 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 and it's meaning there's something else that goes there. No, it's literally, this is part of Java syntax. So to create an ellipsis, just type the three dots. You just put int dot dot dot. Simple. Now you can only have one variable parameter specification, such as int dot dot arg, in a method definition. Can't have more than one. However, you can have any number of ordinary parameters, in which case the var arg specification must be the last item on the parameter list. All right, and this is illustrated with the utility 2 and string processing demo classes. In chapter 2, we saw one method that actually uses a variable number of arguments, which was the method systemout.printf. You may not remember printf, but it was a format thing. Now, however, until we learned about arrays, though, it was pointless really to teach how to construct your own methods with variable arguments, because we didn't have the underlying skill set that we would need. So even though, yes, printf was an option, we just kind of used it. We weren't actually making our own functions. Now we can actually make our own. So let's just go over here and take a look at utility 2 and also string processing. And you see with utility 2, it's slightly different. Here you see return the first argument with all occurrences of other arguments deleted. So this is what censor does. Delete 1 will return the sense with all occurrences of one unwanted removed. So here's my processing demo. And it says, this is another print line, what did you eat for dinner? Scanner keyboard new scanner system in, string sentence equal to keyboard dot next line. So sentence is then equal to utility2.censor, and you're going to put sentence, comma candy, comma french fries, comma salt, comma beer. All right, and you'll see that what this does, according to utility 2, is that it will delete out everything. So none of this stuff here is good for you. So goodbye, all this bad stuff, and it's just going to be sentence. And then you'll see that sentence then is equal to utility2.censor sentence, and then also the comma. In this case, it's an extra comma that it's getting rid of, because, of course, you might have something left over. And then it's going to just print off, you would be healthier if you could answer. System print line sentence. So if I run, for example, the variable parameter demo from the first one, it's going to ask me to enter scores for Tom, Richard, and Harriet. So let's go ahead and just say 40, let's do 50, and how about 45? All right, so according to this, the highest score is 50, because it just calculates the max score. If I look at the string processing demo, it asks, what did I eat for dinner? Well, what's if I say nothing? Right? And it just says you would be healthier if you could answer nothing. Because if you notice, candy, french fries, salt, beer, you could put any other junk food in here, pizza, whatever, just junk food, and it would still come with the same thing. So like, for example, I could say Oreos, because those things are the bane of my existence. Right? And if I run it, what did you eat for dinner? If I put in here, let's say pizza, it says you would be healthier if you could answer pizza. So it just, whatever you pass in here is going to be the thing. All right, even if I type one of the items that's in the list, you'll see that when I type that in here, I put in Oreos. Right? You'll notice Oreos did not show up here, which is a very interesting thing that you should know. So let me just put candy, right? And you'll see that it does not put that there, all right, because it deleted out that instance of that word. So that's one important thing I want to show here with this one, is that if you put in a word that exists in this string, all right, it's going to delete it, because how it works is that it looks for those unwanted characters, all right, and the unwanted ones are anything here. So if any of these words are used, it deletes them. So that's why it says you could be healthier if you answer, and it just spits out a blank line, because technically what you typed in has been removed from that array. So let's just jump back over the notes quick. And that's everything. So I guess